Welcome back. Today, this week, let me start over. Cut. I'll edit this out. Welcome back. This week, we're talking about breath. We're going to talk about breathing. We can never revisit this topic enough. And by golly, breathing is pretty darn important. When you think about it, it's the fundamental activity of life. And while we're blessed to not have to think about our breath, there are times when your next breath could be the most important thing on your mind if you were in an unfortunate situation of having your breath cut off. But this week, the topic of breath, and well, why the topic of breath? Well, me not being a conventionally religious person, but loving what religion is. Religion comes from the Latin root word religio, which means to link back to our source. So God bless all religions to the degree that they follow and adhere to the truth. But I learned that June 8th was the day of Pentecost. What's that? Well, apparently it's the day that the Holy Spirit came upon the original disciples all at once when they were gathered together. And thus there was perhaps the greatest example of two or more being gathered together for the influx of astonishing, magnificent volumes of Holy Spirit coming over them. And that's us. That's we gathered here today because we're a group of disciples, those who are seeking. But in that great day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit came upon those groups, those yogis, those disciples. And up until that time, they really hadn't acquired much power from on high. Jesus had left, so to speak, and they were kind of wandering around, and they didn't have much power. But after the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit descended upon them. Well, how am I going to tie this into breath? Well, first of all, I've got all week to do it, but a great wind came upon them. Wind, prana, breath, air, life force was visited upon them from on high. And when you read the story, it sounds kind of crazy. Great tongues of flames entered into their head, and they all began to speak in tongues, which is really astonishing because back then in the town that they lived in, there were so many different dialects that you could go out in the street and many people couldn't understand many other people, but these disciples were able to speak in everyone's language, which blew everyone's mind. And anyway, the story is astonishing, and I think the gist of it is, the power of it is, they were all illumined, or they were all lifted up by a great wisdom, a great power, a great spirit. And by golly, let's have that happen to us. Well, how are we going to do that this week? Well, by paying attention to our breath and by praying and intending that more and more of this great Holy Spirit comes upon us. Now, of course, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And sometimes we have to be content with patient improvement, as one of our spiritual program teaches us, but you never know. And yesterday I did a breath workshop, and we began by talking about prana, life force, this great energy or spirit that rides upon the breath. And the great yogis of antiquity, 4,000 years ago, they were well aware of this Holy Spirit, perhaps much more so than the apostles, the disciples were before it was visited upon them. And these great yoga sages, they developed the art and the science of pranayama. Prana meaning life force, breathing, breath being the gross element, prana, the life force, being the subtle element riding upon the breath. And then they learned to yama, or control, manage, temper, or work with their breath in such a way that they were always opening their minds, body, psyche, soul, spirit, the entirety of their being to more and more of this Holy Spirit by paying attention to their breath. I think I've already said a lot, and we'll unpack it all week long. But the assignment this week, should you choose to accept it, mission possible, is that how many times today, without any stress or any effort, but simply a gentle reminder from on high, how many times today can we stay in contact and pay attention to the quality of our breath, and especially at any moments when fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, or stress hits us in a way that gets our attention? Can we meet that dilemma, whether it's large, medium, or small, by coming back to our breath and making it conscious, meaning our breath, I guarantee you, our breath will be unconscious all day long, but with wisdom, remembrance, intelligence, persistence, we can have many instances of prayer today, breath prayer, where we pause and find our breath and lengthen it out, and especially the thought of making my exhalation a little longer than my inhalation. And a good way to do that is 3 counts in and 4 or 5 counts out. Anyway, that's years and years worth of wisdom, not from me, but sent from on high through me. So this is the week of Pentecost, where all of us are hit to a larger or a lesser, greater or smaller degree of the visitation of the Holy Spirit, because we're disciples too, and we have a great message to carry. I'll see you guys tomorrow.